Introduction paragraphs for formal essay writing. Okay, so a powerful introduction paragraph must contain the following things: a hook, some background information, and a strong thesis statement with points for development. Let's have a look at each of these individually. All right, number one, the hook. The hook captures the reader's attention with a good fact, a statistic, a quote, an engaging statement, a question. The list goes on, but the primary focus of a hook is to grab that reader's attention. Now, not only must hooks be engaging, they must also be topically related. So here's a trap that I see people fall into. They find a wonderful quote and they see how it relates to their paper, and they take it and they start the paper with it, and then they start talking about background information. And there's just no deliberate link between that interesting hook and the facts that they start giving as background information. So make sure, firstly, when you choose a hook, that it relates directly to the paper, that it's clear in the way that it relates. And from there, the very next sentence of your introduction must begin by making that all-important link between the information in the hook and your thesis statement. So if you had a quote, how does that relate? The statistics, how does that relate? A question as well. These cannot be seen as separate. The hook grabs the reader's attention, and then you lead the reader from that hook to the thesis. Number two, background information. The background information gives the reader context. Background information must be relevant. It must relate directly to the topic of the essay. Now, it should connect first to the hook and then lead the reader to the thesis. So it's that first sentence of that background information that people often make that link between whatever interesting information they used in the hook and then building that down into that thesis statement. Now, here's what I find people do in the with the background information. They give too much. You've got to pare that information down. You don't want a history lesson, for example, or the synopsis of a novel in the introduction paragraph. What you need is to decide what information is absolutely necessary for the reader to understand your thesis statement. Okay, that's the lead-in information that allows the reader to start understanding your position, or your opinion, or your thesis as you continue to develop your ideas. All right, number three, the thesis. What the paper is about. This is the single most important sentence in the entire paper. All right, we've discussed this in depth in class. We've already formulated our thesis. We have also already written our body paragraphs. So we're going back and writing our introduction afterwards. This is so we can reevaluate our thesis statement and we can make sure that our introduction does actually lead us into our paper. So, reminder, the thesis tells the reader what the paper is about. It's your position on an issue, your opinion about a topic, your analysis of information. It also includes your points and reasons. This is one concise sentence. The thesis is your opinion and the reasons that you're going to use to support that opinion. One sentence. All right, need a few tips? Let's have a look. Start your introduction broadly, but not too broad. Provide relevant background, but don't begin your true argument yet. Provide a thesis. This is the start of your argument, what you're going to prove. You're going to build that deeply in the body. Provide only helpful, relevant information. If it doesn't directly relate to this paper, even if it's interesting, leave it out. Try to avoid cliches. This is a great thing that people like to do when they are doing an interesting hook, is they throw in a cliche. Let's try to avoid that. We're going to try to make our writing more and more sophisticated as we hone our skill. Let's get rid of those cliches. Now, don't feel pressure to write your intro first. I started talking about this when we talked about thesis just a minute ago. That introduction paragraph really leads into the whole paper. So I always write mine last. Yes, I write my thesis first. Absolutely do. Then I write my topic sentences. Then I build my body paragraphs. Sometimes I write my conclusion. It depends on how I feel about it at the moment. But then I go backwards and I write my introduction, because now I know what I'm actually introducing. It's like, as a teacher, I create the assessment first, and then I create my lessons to make sure that what you're being taught actually leads you to the assessment piece. Same thing with the introduction paragraph. All right, convince the reader that your essay is worth reading, and never use statements such as I believe or I think. Okay, we know it's your position. We know you believe it or you think it because you are the author. Also, we always avoid first person pronouns. All right, let's look at an example of how we can improve it. Do this kind of quickly. Okay, I'm going to let you pause me and read that on your own, and then we'll come back and look at improving it. Go ahead and hit pause now. Okay, now let's have a look. I'm going to say the first thing that we do with this is to remove unnecessary information. So if you look here, I just honed it a little bit in wording here. Graphic novels are comics and I got rid of trade paperback format. Okay, we know what a comic is. We kind of know what graphic novels are these days anyway. So the story being told through text and through images is extra information. We don't need that. Here, to most, as in people, comics and graphic novels are silly, violent, and chauvinistic. Well, okay, that's fine, but do we need to say that here? I don't think we do. I think that's extra information. However, comics are no longer simply men in tights. Any graphic novels deal with current issues, serious subjects, and learning. That's great. I still think that's extra information we do not need. So the first thing I did was to just really be serious and get rid of those pieces of information that are excess. All right, have a look. Now, when I go back, I have removed sentences. So what I need to do is do some sentence combining to make this a really coherent introduction paragraph. I have labeled it for you. So the sentence in blue is the hook. The black is the background information, and the red is the thesis and points for development. Okay, let's have a look. Comics have been a part of America since the 1930s, and their appeal has survived until present day. Graphic novels, which first appeared on the scene in 1978, are comics in a paperback format and are steadily becoming mainstream in American culture. In recent years, much debate has been stirred regarding whether or not they have a place within a library's collection. However, graphic novels have matured to become a legit form of literature, with many titles winning major literary awards, including the Pulitzer Prize. While the overall general public tends to feel that graphic novels are a frivolous use of library budget, more and more librarians are finding that graphic novels are powerful tools in getting reluctant students to read. Good. That still feels a little long to me. But at the same time, what I found, that original text that I found online, it wasn't mine, just needed a little bit of honing to make it a lot better. All right. Let's just look at two more examples really quickly, so you can get a feel of the different types of introductions that exist. All right. Here's one. Working part-time as a cashier at the Piggly Wiggly has given me a great opportunity to observe human behavior. Sometimes I think of the shoppers as white rats in a lab experiment, and the aisles as a maze designed by a psychologist. Most of the rats, customers I mean, follow a routine pattern, strolling up and down the aisles, checking through my chute, and then escaping through the exit hatch. But not everyone is so dependable. My research has revealed 3 distinct types of abnormal customer: the amnesiac, the super shopper, and the dawdler. All right, this is from a paper called Shopping at the Pig. Wonderful hook in here. This is this person's knowledge about the topic, being someone who has been a cashier. Then this person builds a wonderful metaphor, which is really nice, and that really connects well to the thesis, which is the research. This paper, the way that it's worded, feels less formal. It feels a little more fun with statements like this and the whole rat maze. So while I would normally discourage you from using first person, this particular paper feels like it's more of an informal paper. All right. Next one. With recent studies showing that, on average, dog owners live up to 24% longer than those without canine companions, there's no doubt that a dog can have a range of physical and mental health benefits for its owner. These include a more active lifestyle, a social network of other pet owners, companionship, and a sense of purpose. All right, again, this was an example. You can see the source below where I got it from. This one started with a statistic, a fact. Okay, and then they built that in here and started telling you that there are benefits. Now, this one, very short. The thesis statement has been put on its own, and then the the points for development are separate. So that would be one of my things that I would want someone to hone a little bit. If this were my student, I would want them to separate the thesis here. A dog can have a range of physical and mental health benefits for its owner is the thesis. It's connected up here with the hook. So I think I would want them to try to disconnect that a little bit and instead connect it to these points for development. Now, of course, as you get older and become more sophisticated as a writer, some of these formulaic things you do start breaking. So that's why you see that happen sometimes. But you just have to keep in mind that it doesn't always work. So you have to think about your purpose when you make such choices. All right, this has been a Mrs. Bryant's Classroom production. I hope you learned something.